I also just want to point out, isn't it unfortunate that you have like a bunch of Star Wars fans who are like, oh, Peter Cushing, Star Wars, that's the greatest role ever. But in this movie, he's like, he's actually acting like he's fantastic.
I think we talked about this in the Mummy episode. I compared him a bit to Alec Guinness, because Alec Guinness says that thing where Star Wars fans are like, oh yeah, Alec Guinness, yeah, he's Obi-Wan. And it's like, no, he's got shoe polish on his face. Like, come on, remember him for his
Watch
great
Bridge
moments.
on the River Kwai.
Exactly. Bridge on the River Kwai is a fantastic movie. He's amazing in that. Phenomenal actor. Peter Cushing, not quite on the Alec Guinness level, but this is certainly his best role, at least of the films that I've seen. Not that he's bad in Star Wars. He's fine as like a somewhat generic villain.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, but like here, he's anything but generic.
Exactly. Well, also, isn't it kind of funny that Sir Christopher Lee,
Count Dooku?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that he's been knighted, but I don't know. In everything I've seen Christopher Lee in, like, I like him. He's a fine actor, but I think Peter Cushing was probably a little better, you know. And if Christopher Lee was starring in these kind of Hammer horror films and other kind of B movies throughout his life, it's interesting that he was knighted. Though I know he did like a lot of work on the stage too, right?
It's complicated, right? Because the knighthood, when it's given to actors, or given to actors, pop culture figures, it's supposed to be given not just for their on-stage or in-entertainment achievements, but it's supposed to have some relevance to their charity work, right? There was some controversy when Mick Jagger was knighted because people were saying he didn't do enough charity work. And there's... which is probably true. Technically, Keith Richards, who has not been knighted, has done more charity work, but that's because legally he had to. Otherwise, Canada was going to throw him in prison for like decades. So he started doing charity work with the blind in Toronto or whatever. But and then you have cases like Roger Moore. Roger Moore was a legend, but he was kind of just James Bond, right? Like, can you really say he had that celebrated of a career? It was kind of just one role. I mean, I know he did The Saint, but like, who the hell cares, right? So,
it's no James Bond, that's for sure.
Exactly. So if we're looking at someone for their whole career achievements, I think Christopher Lee has a better career than Peter Cushing, especially it goes on for so long, and he's in Lord of the Rings, you know,
that's
decades later. I was actually just the other day looking at something. This was, I mean, it was a Jeopardy rerun, but there was the final Jeopardy question was, in 1939, this actor became the third actor to star in three films that, or the first actor to star in three films that won the Academy Award for Best Picture, and it listed the years as 34, 35, and 39. I knew right away it was Clark Gable, because it happened one night. It was 34, Gone with the Wind is 39. I didn't know what the 35 one was, but it's like, okay, it's Clark Gable. Then I was looking up, okay, how many other actors have done that? You know, three. And I thought, like, okay, Talia Shire's in the two Godfather movies, and then also Rocky. And so I'm like looking at this, and Christopher Lee was in two films that won Best Picture. And they were 60 fucking years apart. It was amazing. I think he's got to have the record for... Because he's in... well, actually, now that I think of it, I don't think he's in the theatrical version of Return of the King, is he?
No, he's only in the extended.
But they did list that, and I didn't think of that at the time. And then I think he's in, like, was it Lawrence of Arabia? Or, like, one of those really old movies. He probably has a small role in it.
Oh, was he?
Like, one of those, like, late 50s, you know. I think it's probably Lawrence of Arabia because it's a British movie. You know, I don't think it would be Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur's American. But it's like, wow, amazing. But then now that I'm bringing it up, I just thought, like, oh, he's technically not in Return of the King or the theatrical version, but he's still in The Lord of the Rings. He's a major role in the first two films, you know. Yeah, and he's in Star Wars. He's in the Willy Wonka remake, unfortunately. I think he's Willy Wonka's dad, who, like...
Yeah, isn't he? Something like that?
There's, like, some hackneyed backstory to Willy Wonka's character that we absolutely did not need. It's so much better just to see Gene Wilder be this, like, unhinged weirdo that we don't know anything about, but...
Yeah.